Every election, some people get animated and excited, thinking that they can make a change with their vote. Little do they know that their vote has little to no effect on the political program of the government that gets elected. Every democratic election is a deception because it gives the impression that the people have the power through their vote to decide the political destiny of a country, but they don't. Let's take a look. Democracy is a revered term in Europe and viewed as something which is objectively good. Not just amongst the Western liberal secular democracies, but also during the Soviet era amongst the communist bloc. Both described their governments as democratic. In fact, the communists used to say that they were more democratic than the capitalist West because they put the interest of the many before the few. And the capitalists also claimed that they were more democratic because they had multi-party elections and the people could vote for the government that they wanted. Although both the capitalist and the communist tried to claim moral legitimacy by claiming to be democratic, neither were or are. Democracy itself is a fairy tale idea, something that can never really exist. So democracy, as you know, is from the Greek term demos kratos, meaning people power, but it was nothing of the sort. Even in what they considered to be the purest form of democracy, the original model of democracy in Athens, only 10 to 20% of the people that lived in Athens actually took part in decision making. And the philosophers of the time, like Socrates, like Plato, and even Aristotle, although he was nuanced in his criticism, they criticized democracy because they said it was akin to mob rule. Ignorant people who didn't know the finer points of governance were being involved in making important decisions. And they were also critical of the fact of perpetual debate and discussion delaying decision making. So the Athenian model of democracy, the rule of the people, for the people, by the people, excluded 80 to 90% of the people and was nothing like the ideal of democracy that people portray to be. And interestingly, when democracy failed or stopped in Athens in 322 BC, nobody gave it a second look for over 2,000 years. And it was only looked again during the European Renaissance as something to oppose the backwardness and the oppression and tyranny of the church and the ruling monarchies of the time. Now, there is a difference between the democracy of Athens over 2,000 years ago, where 10 to 20% people got involved in the politics there, and the democracy of today, where less than 1% of the people actually decide the political program of a country. Today, the elections give the illusion to the masses that they are in power, but in fact, they are not the ones who decide the political program or the legislative program for the government in power. So the ballot box is that which gives the illusion to the people that they are in power, but they are not. They get to select the puppet, but not the puppet master. More about that in a second. And the second part of the deception is played by the media. They manufacture consent. They cajole the masses into telling them who their enemies are and who they should vote for. So even the information that the people have in order to choose who to vote for is given to them through the media, which is on the side of the 1%. So coming back to the ballot box, the vote that a person casts in an election has got nothing to do with legislation. It is merely a choice of selecting the puppet whose strings will be pulled by the puppet master. So before an election, when a party comes to the electorate and gives them promises, pledges, and policy ideas of what they are going to do if they get into government, all of this is bogus because it is not binding. The naive will think, but this party is favorable to the Muslims. But the party that is favorable to the Muslim, whether it's the blue party, the red party, the green party, or whatever other color the party is, they will also have policies that are favorable to the black people, to the women, to the homosexuals, to the working class, to the rich. They will have policies to appeal to different demographics in order to win their vote. And all the parties do that. Now, they might focus on particular demographics as opposed to others where they think they will get the most votes. Now, here's the kicker. The promises and the pledges and the policy ideas that the parties have are not binding. They can lie to you. They can knowingly lie to you when they are campaigning for your vote, and there is nothing you can do about it. And there is no law to stop them from doing that. So this is not hypothetical, this is real. When Keir Starmer replaced Jeremy Corbyn as the leader of the Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn was popular and his policies were popular. And Keir Starmer promised that he would keep all the same policies and fight the coming election on that platform. Yet he renegaded on every single one of the policies that Jeremy Corbyn stood for. And there was nothing anybody could do about it.
You have absolutely said you had 10 pledges, you were going to carry on the Corbyn legacy. And ever since, you've done nothing but distance yourself from the ideas which tens of thousands of people joined the Labour Party to support. And all you've done is feed into the Tory ideology of not supporting strikes, of carrying on with the privatisation of our health service. You're doing everything to feed into a Tory victory. Because we may as well have a Tory if we have a person like you who lies to the party. It's a dishonesty.
People haven't forgotten Nick Clegg, the leader of the Liberal Party, when he said that he would abolish tuition fees. He actually got into government and he didn't do that. And there's nothing you can do about that. Margaret Thatcher in 1979 brought about the biggest privatization program probably in British history. Something like 2 million people lost their jobs in her first term of government, and there was not a single mention of privatization in the manifesto in 1979. And many of those 2 million people who lost their jobs would have voted for her in that election, and there's nothing they can do about it. So your vote might help to decide who gets into government, but your vote has got nothing to do with the legislation. That is decided by the people that fund the parties, the think tanks, and the big businesses. The elections and the ballot box is merely a veil to disguise the real system. The real system is a system of capitalism, where the rich and powerful rule to protect their interest, but the election and the ballot box gives the deception to the masses that they are in charge. And it's this vote by the masses that gives the moral legitimacy for this system to exist and continue. So every single democratic election and every single democracy is a deception. You are duped into thinking that you are the kingmaker, but you are not. You are like the child who's playing a games console with his bigger brother, but your remote is not connected to the console. You think you are playing, but you are not. So now coming back to the media. The media manufactures consent. In most cases, even before the election takes place, the elite decide who they would like to achieve power because they have got an understanding with them. And the media will be used in order to manufacture consent. The media will be used in order to praise and laud one particular party and politicians, and they will demonize other politicians and other parties, and they will tell the electorate what the threats are, who the enemies are, and they will use fear in order to cajole them into one particular direction. The media is very powerful in shaping people's perceptions and ideas. Recently, 3 people were stabbed in London, and the media used that and presented it as an anti-Semitic act of terror. And this was used to increase funding to the Jewish community by millions, and this was used to provide extra protection for the Jewish community. The fact was that the 3 people were killed, and the first person that was killed was a Muslim. And the killing was done by a person with mental issues who had recently come out of a mental hospital. So it wasn't an anti-Semitic crime. It was just another stabbing of thousands of stabbings that take place in London. But the media shaped it in a particular way and used it to achieve something. The fact that mosques are bombed, Muslims are attacked, women are raped. The media doesn't present this because it doesn't fit the narrative to create the political climate they want. And we see every day how the media creates hatred for the Muslims and sympathy for those who commit genocide in Gaza. We saw how the media vilified Jeremy Corbyn and praised a person with zero charisma and character like Keir Starmer to such an extent that he actually became Prime Minister. So who is it that decides the political program for a government? The biggest influence on this are the think tanks, UK businesses, and the funders of the political parties themselves. And what is really strange is that many of these political organizations or think tanks that influence political parties and governments in the UK, we don't even know who funds them. And this came to light recently when the group called Labour, Labour Together, which backed Keir Starmer and ousted Corbyn, they will not reveal where they get their funds from and who their backers are. And that's just one group. There are many, many groups like this. There are many think tanks. Many of these think tanks, it's known, they are funded by banks, by corporations and wealthy individuals, but the amount of money that they fund is not known. So if you look, for example, now, the phenomena of the Reform Party, they present themselves as a party on the side of the working class white person, and they are against the immigration, which harm the interest of the working class white people. Nothing could be further from the truth. The party is funded by extremely wealthy, rich business people, many of them who don't even live in the UK. And they fund this party because they want to get into power to protect their interests. But the way to get to power is to get the masses to vote for them. So they will portray themselves as one thing in order to get into power, but their agenda is something else. And we saw this during the time of Brexit as well. And the obvious question is, why do business people spend millions, and in America, in the case of America, billions to win an election? This is not free money. These are business people. This is an investment. It is a financial decision they make. It is an investment because they know that if they can control policies and government, they are in a position to make huge returns in their billions. So when they spend millions and billions in an election, know that they are going to get more back in return. So the political systems in the West, the liberal secular democracies as they call them, they are primarily there to protect the interests of the rich, the elite, and to maintain the status quo. They are not there to bring about radical change. But what keeps this corrupt system continuing is by continually giving hope to the people that in the next election you can make a change. And maybe there were some disruptors, some independent parties, some independent candidates in order to re-engage people. So the more people that engage with the system, it gives the system moral legitimacy to continue. This is like casino politics. It's like a gambler who is addicted to betting and thinking that the next bet is the one that's going to deliver. This is no different to a gambler who thinks that his next bet is going to deliver him a big win. People come to election after election after election thinking this time it's going to be different. But nothing really changes. The vote is important because it gives the system moral legitimacy to continue. And the left wing and the radical elements and the independents, they are unwitting agents that re-engage, disillusion people back into the system. It's almost like telling a gambler who's lost faith in the casino to come back. Your next bet will give you the next win. And this is what is happening. It is a system which is rigged in the favor of the elite. There is only ever going to be one winner, and that is the capitalists. And they have the power to stop real change. And that has always been the case in the history of democracy from its early days. So it beggars belief that this democratic system, which has been really harmful to the Muslim community, not just nationally in America and Britain, where people are getting arrested and locked up and criminalized for speaking their mind, but Muslims have been adversely affected by this system globally. In Palestine, in Yemen, in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, all over the world, Muslims are being bombed. And we have suffered immensely at the hands of this system, nationally and internationally. So it beggars belief that scholars are now issuing edicts that we can give our zakat money to support this system and support the parties in this system in America. Rather, if you want real radical change, we should be working to re-establish the Islamic model of governance in the Muslim world and use that as an example to the rest of mankind of what it means to look after the affairs of the people. Exactly how the first generations did and how they invited the Romans and the Persians to Islam, This is the model and example we should be following. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.